Ryan Collister had never thought much about silence. For a man whose days were spent in boardrooms, surrounded by voices demanding answers, solutions, and signatures, silence was foreign, almost unsettling. Yet tonight, in the vast halls of his mansion, silence pressed down on him like an invisible weight. The storm outside had cut the power. Rain streaked against the tall windows, and occasional thunder rolled through the hills that surrounded his estate. He sat alone in his study, staring at the glow of his phone screen. The news app flashed headlines one after the other: string of robberies across the city, armed gang still on the loose. Ryan's jaw tightened. It wasn't the crime itself that made him uneasy. He had layers of security, guards, and systems designed to keep him safe. But something about tonight felt wrong, as though the storm had carried danger straight to his doorstep. His phone buzzed. A message from his head of security read, "Sir, patrols are active. Nothing unusual so far. Stay inside." Ryan typed back a brief acknowledgement, then tossed the phone onto the desk. He ran a hand through his dark hair, stood, and paced. The house felt too large, too exposed. He thought about calling for the staff, just to know someone else was awake. That's when he heard it, the faintest sound, like glass cracking in the distance. Ryan froze. The storm could have caused it. Or not. He moved to the wall, opened the drawer of his mahogany desk, and pulled out the handgun his father had insisted every Collister man should know how to use. He had never fired it outside a range, but tonight he was grateful for the cold steel in his hand. The noise came again, louder this time. Then footsteps. Not the orderly, familiar steps of his butler or housemaid. These were hurried, clumsy, deliberate. Ryan's pulse quickened. He flicked the safety off and moved through the hall. Lightning lit up the grand staircase for a second, revealing shadows darting across the lower floor. They were inside. Elena Rivera was not supposed to be here tonight. The maid had finished her shift hours ago, but Ryan had noticed she lingered. She often did. She was quiet, efficient, and careful with her words, but he had always sensed something watchful about her. Unlike the other staff, who laughed and gossiped in the kitchen, Elena kept to herself. Now, as Ryan descended the stairs, he found her already in the foyer. She wasn't screaming or panicking. She wasn't even holding a phone. She stood perfectly still, her dark hair framing a calm, unreadable face. "Elena," Ryan whispered harshly. "Get back. There are intruders." Her eyes met his, steady and unshaken. "I know. What do you mean, you know?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she glanced toward the east corridor, where faint beams of flashlight cut through the darkness. The burglars were moving fast, splitting up as if they knew the layout of the mansion. "Elena," Ryan started again, but she raised a finger to her lips. And to his disbelief, she walked directly toward the corridor. Ryan nearly cursed aloud. She was insane, or foolishly brave. Either way, she was going to get herself killed. He moved to follow, but Elena turned back slightly, her voice barely audible. "Stay behind me." Stay behind her. Was she mad? He was the one with the gun. She had nothing. No weapon. No training, as far as he knew. Just a maid's uniform and that strange, unnerving calm. Still, something about her tone made him hesitate. The intruders appeared seconds later. 3 men in dark clothing, faces masked, guns in hand. Their leader, taller and broader than the others, barked orders. "Split up. Grab whatever you can. The safe should be upstairs." Ryan gripped his pistol tighter, ready to raise it. But Elena stepped forward before he could. "You don't want to do this," she said softly. The men froze, surprised by her sudden appearance. Then the leader laughed. "What's this?" "The maid." "Sweetheart, step aside before you get hurt." Her gaze didn't waver. "If you take one more step, you'll regret it." Ryan's breath caught. Was she bluffing? What was she playing at? The leader sneered. "You think you scare me?" He lifted his weapon. What happened next left Ryan speechless. Elena moved with startling precision, faster than Ryan thought possible. She grabbed the nearest vase from the side table and hurled it at the man's wrist. The impact made him stumble and drop the gun. In the same fluid motion, she spun, kicked the weapon out of reach, and swept his legs out from under him. The 2 other robbers shouted and lunged toward her, but Elena anticipated them. She ducked low, slammed her shoulder into one's ribs, and twisted his arm until his gun clattered to the floor. The other tried to grab her from behind, but she elbowed him hard in the stomach, making him double over in pain. All of this in seconds. Seconds. Ryan stood frozen, watching his quiet maid dismantle three armed intruders like a trained fighter. When the first man tried to rise, Elena pressed her foot down on his chest. "Don't," she warned, voice cold now, no trace of softness. The storm raged outside, thunder echoing the chaos inside. Ryan finally snapped out of it and rushed forward, gun still in hand. What are you doing? How do you know how to?" "No time," Elena interrupted, eyes sharp. "There are more. These three were just the entry." As if to confirm, another crash came from the back of the mansion. More voices shouted. The burglars had reinforcements. Ryan felt the hairs on his neck rise. "How do you know that?" Elena looked at him for the briefest moment, and in her expression he saw something he hadn't expected. Not fear, not panic, but certainty. "Because I've seen this before," she said. Before he could press further, the sound of boots echoed closer. Elena leaned in quickly. "Do exactly as I say if you want to live." Ryan, a man used to commanding thousands of employees, found himself nodding without hesitation. They ducked into the side hall, weaving through the shadows. Elena moved with uncanny awareness, as though she knew where every intruder would appear before they did. She guided Ryan toward a hidden passage behind the wine cellar, one he barely remembered existed. "How do you know this house so well?" he asked as they moved. Her lips curved faintly, but not in amusement. "You'd be surprised what a maid notices when no one else is paying attention." The noise of the burglars grew louder, spreading through the mansion like a virus. Ryan gritted his teeth. "Why are they here? They could have chosen any house." "They're not after random loot," Elena replied, her voice low. "They came for something specific." Ryan's chest tightened. "The vault." "Yes," she said simply. Ryan felt sweat trickle down his back. That vault didn't just hold money. It held documents, contracts, patents, and secrets that, if exposed, could cripple entire industries. Secrets only a handful of people knew existed. And apparently, Elena was one of them. The passage opened into a dim stairwell. They descended quickly, Ryan's thoughts racing. Who was Elena really? He had hired her 6 months ago through an agency. She had impeccable references, no red flags, no odd history. Just a quiet, diligent woman who never caused trouble. Yet now she fought like someone trained in combat and navigated his home better than he did. "Who are you?" he demanded, his whisper sharp. She didn't answer. Instead, she pushed open the door at the bottom of the stairwell and motioned for him to stay quiet. They emerged in the old underground storage room. The air was damp, heavy with dust. From above, muffled voices barked orders. Ryan finally grabbed her arm. "Elena, I deserve answers. If you know what's happening, you need to tell me." She looked at him then, really looked at him, her dark eyes unwavering. "All you need to know right now is that these men aren't ordinary thieves. And if you don't trust me, you won't survive the night." The words struck him harder than thunder. For the first time in years, Ryan realized control was no longer his. It belonged to his maid. And she wasn't who he thought she was. The air in the underground storage room was heavy and damp, and Ryan could hear the robbers moving through the house above them. Their boots struck the wooden floors, and the occasional crash of glass echoed like warning bells. He kept his voice low. "You need to tell me who you are, Elena. None of this makes sense. You fight like a soldier, you move like you've been here 100 times, and you know what they want. I hired you to clean rooms and polish silver, not protect me from armed gangs." Her gaze held his steadily, calm even in the thick of danger. "You are right. None of this makes sense to you because you never looked beyond what you wanted to see. You only ever saw me as a maid." Ryan's jaw clenched. "Then who are you really?" She didn't answer at first. Instead, she tilted her head, listening to the footsteps above them. Her posture shifted, alert, almost predatory. When she spoke, her voice was sharper. "They will find the vault in less than 20 minutes. If that happens, the people who sent them will not stop there. You are not the only one in danger." Her words sank like stones in his chest. "The people who sent them. This isn't just a gang of thieves. No, They are professionals, paid to take something from you that should never be in anyone's hands. Ryan felt the weight of her meaning. He thought of the vault upstairs and the documents sealed inside. Those files weren't just personal. They contained technology that could alter entire industries, strategies his company guarded more fiercely than gold. If those plans were stolen, the consequences would ripple far beyond his mansion. His breath came heavier. How do you know this? Elena finally looked him straight in the eyes. Because I used to be one of them. Ryan froze. The words barely registered. One of them. You mean? Yes. Before I became your maid, I was trained to infiltrate homes like yours, to gather information, to secure what others wanted taken. I know their methods because I lived them. And now those methods are being used against you. The storm outside seemed to roar louder at her confession. Ryan swallowed hard. Why would you leave that life? Why would you end up here, working for me? Her expression softened just slightly, and for the first time, Ryan thought he saw weariness in her eyes. Because I wanted out. I was tired of being used. Tired of hurting people. When I found the agency that placed me here, it felt like a chance to start over. No one looks at the maid twice. It gave me quiet, anonymity, and peace. He tried to process everything at once. His maid was not just calm under pressure. She was trained, experienced, and perhaps more dangerous than the men tearing his house apart. Yet she had chosen to live quietly, sweeping floors and folding linens. But now her past had returned. Elena, Ryan whispered, if you left them, why are they here now? Why target me? Her answer came without hesitation. Because of what is in your vault. They know it exists, and they know it is worth more than money. You are not their first job, and you will not be their last. But I am the reason they know how to find you. They used me once, and when I left, I thought I had erased my trail. I was wrong. Her words cut through him like ice. If what she said was true, his fortune, his secrets, his very life had been marked the moment she stepped into his mansion months ago. Yet he could not ignore the reality in front of him. Without her, he would already be dead. Above them, a sudden crash jolted them back into the moment. Voices grew louder, closer. The intruders were searching the house room by room. Elena gripped his arm firmly. If we do not move now, we will be trapped. Where do we go? To the vault. Ryan blinked. Are you insane? That is exactly where they are headed. Which is why we must get there first. You do not understand what they will do once they break it open. We cannot allow them even a second inside. Her voice carried no room for argument. Against every instinct, Ryan nodded. They moved quickly through the narrow passageways, Elena leading with effortless confidence. Ryan followed, his hand tight around the pistol, though he felt less and less capable with every step beside her. When they emerged near the west wing, the storm's howl slipped through the cracked windows. The mansion smelled of broken wood and wet air. They pressed themselves against the wall as two masked intruders passed by. Elena signaled with her hand, then slid forward with silent precision. In one swift movement she swept behind the man at the rear, struck the back of his knee, and muffled his cry as he dropped. She disarmed him and motioned Ryan to keep moving before the other noticed. Ryan stared in disbelief at how easily she did it. He was beginning to realize she wasn't just trained. She was extraordinary. By the time they reached the heavy steel door of the vault, Ryan's heart was pounding. The keypad glowed faintly in the dark, awaiting the code only he knew. But they were not alone. 3 intruders already stood there, flashlights trained on the vault, tools in hand. The leader from earlier, the one Elena had disabled, had regrouped with reinforcements. His arm was bound in cloth, but his fury was written across his face. Well, he sneered when his light caught them. The master of the house and his maid. I should have guessed you were more trouble than you looked. Ryan raised his pistol, but the leader's men raised theirs faster. Put it down, the man barked. Elena stepped slightly in front of Ryan, her hands calm at her sides. You cannot win this, she told the leader, her tone almost sorrowful. The man laughed bitterly. Still pretending you are not one of us. I know you, Elena. You are a traitor. You left your people behind. Tonight, you will pay for it. Ryan's blood went cold. The leader knew her. This was not coincidence. The man gestured at the vault. Open it, Collister, or you both die here. Ryan's hand trembled on the pistol. His instinct screamed not to obey, but the guns aimed at them left little choice. He glanced at Elena, searching for an answer. She whispered without looking back, "Trust me." He had no reason to. And yet, he did. Ryan lowered his pistol slowly, pretending to surrender. His other hand moved toward the keypad. He pressed 3 numbers deliberately, then paused. Sweat dripped down his temple. "Faster," the leader growled. But before Ryan could finish, Elena sprang into action. She ducked sideways, knocking the flashlight from one man's hand, plunging the corridor into near darkness. Ryan fired a shot blindly, the deafening crack echoing through the hall. The intruders stumbled, confused by the sudden chaos. Elena moved like a shadow, striking with precision. She disarmed one man with a kick, slammed another into the wall, and used the fallen flashlight to smash the leader across the jaw. Ryan fired again, narrowly missing as Elena forced the last man to the ground. When the dust settled, the 3 intruders lay incapacitated, groaning on the floor. Elena stood over them, breathing hard but composed, her hair damp against her face. Ryan lowered his gun, stunned. You saved my life." Her voice was steady, but her eyes carried the weight of something heavier. "This is not over. Others will come. You must decide whether you will continue to guard secrets that put you in their sights, or destroy them before they destroy you." Ryan looked at the steel vault door. For years, he had believed its contents were his greatest advantage, his legacy. Now he realized it was a beacon for enemies who would never stop coming. He turned back to Elena. "If I destroy it, will they leave me alone?" She shook her head. "No, but it will weaken their reason to keep coming. What you do next will decide everything." Lightning flashed through the hall windows, illuminating her face. Ryan saw the woman who had quietly polished his floors, who had stood in silence at the edges of his wealth, and who tonight had become his savior. "Stay," he whispered, surprising himself with the word. "Do not leave after this. I need you, not as a maid, as someone I can trust." Elena's lips pressed into the faintest smile, but her eyes were distant, carrying the memory of battles long past. "Trust must be earned, Mr. Collister." Tonight was only the beginning. Before he could respond, the sound of sirens cut through the storm outside. The police had finally arrived. Elena stepped back into the shadows, her presence quiet and watchful once more, as though she had never been anything more than a maid. But Ryan knew better now. The world would soon know better too. Because what Elena had done tonight was not just protect a millionaire. She had exposed herself to the very people she had been running from. And in doing so, she had changed both of their lives forever.